Hello, everybody. My name is Karen Thomas, and this is our virtual morning coffee chat. This is part of the Summit Seekers Facebook group. If you'd like to be a member, please send us a request. We'd love to have you as part of our community. If you are seeing this on the replay or on YouTube, please give us a comment, a hashtag replay, and let us know if you have any questions or if you had an aha moment that the topic may have given you some inspiration or given you some information that you maybe not have known about. So we cover business challenges, business wins. This is all about leadership and stepping into the person we need to be the leader in our field, in our opportunity, in our life. Leaders are not just born, they are created by each and every challenge that they overcome. So with that being said, we are going to, well, it would have been nice with the view. I should have changed it. So it was like this, but for whatever reason, we I'll let Miss Vedra introduce herself. She's our guest speaker today. She is going to be telling us all about what she does and how it serves you. All right, Miss Vedra, take it away.
Hi, good morning. I am Vedra Moon coming to you from beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, and I am known as the safety net builder. What I do is I help my clients find different insurance products to help serve their financial needs, and I also help them save up to 70% off of their funeral expenses.
That
Thank
is
you.
fabulous. So tell us what got you started in this direction. I mean, what motivated you, or did you just fall into it? What's the backstory?
Well, what led me to insurance is back in 2006, a long time ago, my stepdad, he had a stroke. And at the same time, my mom, she went into premature labor. She gave birth to my sister, who is now 17. And just had so many different stuff going on. And it was because of their insurance product that they were able to survive that dark period of their life. With my dad being in the hospital with the stroke and my mom giving birth to my sister, she also lost her job at the same time. So it was just one thing after the other. Um, so living through that experience, it definitely helped me realize how beneficial it is to have an insurance product, because it helps them cover all the additional medical expenses and also their living expenses for a while.
Right. So what kind of insurance? So they were one of the blessed ones, because we do hear this kind of story, and it's the, oh my God. I mean, when my daughter was born, I didn't have this kind of backup, and we had to sell our house and go live with friends because I lost my job. And my husband had just started his own business within the year. Most of us go through a tragic end to this, or a tragic, virtual part of this kind of situation. So what kind of insurance did they have, and how blessed were they that they had foresight to even have it in place?
It was a whole life policy, and it was insurance coverage that they had through their jobs. So they were able to cash out the policies before they lost the jobs. Because what a lot of people don't realize, oftentimes people will assume that life insurance policy pays out only when somebody dies. But it does also have the option to cash it out if you have to pay for unforeseen medical expenses or any other living expenses due to life changes.
Wow, didn't know that. Cool. Well, that, at least you were on the blessed end of it to see them
Yes.
survive. So, in a better way. None of those situations really is, um, what's the word I'm looking for? A joy to go through,
No.
but it could have been so much worse if they had not had that option. So that's
Oh, yeah.
That's really interesting that you were living at home with that, or were you I mean, I know there's a bigger difference of age between you and your sister. So were you already like living your own life, or were you still at home when this happened?
No, I was actually already here in the United States, but even with the distance, it was still challenging for me just knowing everything that they were experiencing. And uh, I was able to also send some money to help out because that was definitely a dark period. So, and
Right.
challenging. And fortunately, because of the life insurance, they didn't have to sell their house or sell cars or anything like that.
Oh, wow. That's an amazing win, and that if you have to go through something, that at least is um such a great fallback to know that they survived it better than most of us.
Yes.
So you were already in the States. So what brought you over here? I mean, they're back in where? South I know you said that there's some in South Africa, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, is there a bigger difference with the way the economies go from there to here?
Oh, absolutely. I came to the United States in 2002. I came on an exchange program. I was a nanny and I liked it, so I stayed. And as far as the economy, at present, 35% of the population in South Africa is unemployed. So, and besides the unemployment rate for a number of years, South Africa, they've had daily rolling blackouts. So they could have blackouts anywhere from 12 hours, sometimes up to 48 hours. So even if somebody wanted to venture into the online business space, it would be a challenge,
Mm,
especially if they're without electricity for a while and don't have the funds to maybe pay for a generator or any backup source of electricity.
mm. But is the internet there, or does the internet go out for the same time that the electricity goes out?
Generally, yes. And well, cell phone services still work, so somebody would be able to use their cell phone, but oftentimes people limit their cell phone usage because they're not sure how long the power is going to be out, and
Right,
they do want to save that battery power on the phone in case of an emergency.
right, right. I could,
And
people just don't know how blessed it is that we have it over here when you hear about what people are having to live with in other places.
yeah, I'm definitely blessed to be here, and I don't see myself going back to South Africa anytime soon.
Yeah, visiting's one thing, living there, if you have since you have you stayed here and you're now, a citizen, or have you finished your citizenship here?
Yes, I'm a citizen, and I'm currently working on helping my mom and sister move here, hopefully this December. So that'd be great.
Oh, that'll be wonderful to hear and have that happen, for you. I know it's such a worry, and such a great distance. To have them here closer would be so much easier to help them out. So tell us a little bit more about what insurance, does, and the benefits and the different types that you help with.
Well, I'm licensed to sell life and health insurance, but my primary focus is mainly on life insurance. And the majority of my clients are 50 and older. So usually the clients that are 50 and older, they focus on buying whole life insurance products because it's mainly to pay for burial expenses. And the average policy that clients would buy would be anywhere from 10,000 up to $40,000 because that is plenty to cover for funeral expenses.
Mhm.
But I do also occasionally sell to the younger clients, so anyone from age 14 days old and onwards. So typically, the younger clients, they tend to buy term products which have a higher coverage amount. So with a higher coverage amount, you could get up to $5 million. But with term, the only drawback about term, it's like renting insurance. So you can have term coverage for 20, 30 years. And the life insurance company, they are taking a bigger risk. So you can get term coverage for up to $250,000 without any medical exam, but anything above $250,000 will require a medical exam. And as far as the monthly premium, with term, it's a lot more affordable than with whole life.
Yep. I did term insurance way back when my kids were little, simply because you just never know. And I wanted them to have something, and it's all I could afford. Not really knowing and understanding. I mean, I knew the differences between whole and term, but when you have a special needs child and you're having to look at, I need more than burial services, I need to be able to
Yes.
pay somebody to raise my child, having, a couple 100,000 in insurance to guarantee that they will not go without was something we had to take care of. So the term is definitely nice, for those kind of situations.
Oh, definitely. Like it's usually clients under 50 who will buy the term product because, as you mentioned, it is more affordable. And a lot of times people get the term product like a married couple. If one of them were to die, then the surviving spouse would be able to pay off the mortgage and also to replace the income. So term product, it definitely is very useful. But unlike a whole life policy, with term, it doesn't allow you the option to borrow cash funds from the policy. So it doesn't build up cash value over time.
Right. And the thing is, when I converted my term at one point, I converted my term to whole life because my term policy would run out and I wasn't guaranteed that I would be able to get insurance at an older age,
Yes.
because you have to pass a health health exam
Mhm.
for your whole life. Don't you have to, or is there a certain age that they start that?
Well, with whole life, with the majority of insurance companies, you don't. So with the ones that I am licensed with, you don't require a medical exam. It's just some, like I work from home doing telesales, and there's just some health questions that I ask the client. So even somebody with terminal illnesses like HIV or AIDS, they do still qualify for coverage, but their premiums will be higher than somebody of the same age without any terminal illnesses.
Okay.
And even without the medical exam, the life insurance company, they do still do a medical background check. So it's kind of like doing a credit check, but just on your medical history.
Right.
Because people lie. So somebody could be like, yes, I'm healthy. I've never had any issues. And then when they do the medical background, it all comes up.
It all comes up. And from in this day and age, there's so much, everything goes so digital. You can't hide anything anymore. Everything is with Big Brother, everything's accessible pretty much to everyone.
Yes.
um that has codes or whatever to submit and ask. It's you can't hide these things. So but the term insurance is, you buy them. I think with mine I did 20 years, and if then you have to renew it, and they keep you the same amount for that 20 years, right?
Well, if you renew it, then yes, you can keep the same amount, but it's likely that the new premium will be based on your current age. It's not
Will
going
be on
to
your
keep
current
up
age.
with
But that's what I'm
the.
saying. When you go to do the next one, that's why people buy the term in groups of 10, whichever how many decades, so that they can guarantee the price for that long. But when it ends, then whatever else you get is determined by your new age, whatever you're at the end of that.
Yes,
And
that's correct.
I didn't want to have to worry about my term. I'm at 66 and no health products, no health problems. It's like, well, if I had a term and I did 20 years, what happens if I'm, 85 and I've outlived that term? What am I going to do? Whereas whole life, it doesn't ever end.
Yeah, that's correct. Like whole life doesn't ever end, but then typically the coverage amount is lower than with term, and the monthly premiums tend to be higher because you're paying for a longer amount of time.
Right. But you don't have to worry about it ending and not being able to get it, or paying a even double, triple, or whatever amount from not having had it.
Yes.
So
And also with the benefit about a whole life product, a whole life insurance coverage, it does also have the option, like during COVID, if for some reason you weren't able to maintain the monthly premiums with your whole life policy, you do have the option to pay the premiums with a cash value based over the number of years that you've had the policy.
yes, and you can borrow it against it. There's a lot of perks to it. Making sure that once you get it in your budget, once I stretched and got it in my budget, it hasn't been hard to maintain. But that jump from $50 to $150, like,
Ooh,
okay.
that is quite a jump. So is that still for term coverage that you have, or is it for whole life?
Was the whole life. I was just being general, okay?
Oh,
I,
okay.
I I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look. I don't know. I know that my coverage now is 159 something a month, but
Okay.
I've had it for 3 or 4 years, and I don't have to worry about qualifying or it jumping up too much or running out and having to try to get new insurance at 80, 90, or whatever. Mom's going to be
Yes.
92 this year. I already know that unless God takes me home, I'm going to be living another 30, 40 years.
Yes.
I want my kids to be well off. I want my kids to be able to. I don't want to have to worry about how them having to take care of too much. So that's why the whole life it'll take care of whatever expenses and things that they may and encounter once I go. But let's talk about the funeral expenses, because that was what really intrigued me about your way you introduce yourself is, funeral expenses anymore. It's so, I mean, I was talking to one gentleman who said that one funeral home, it was $3,000 just to walk in the door. And so funerals end up being almost like $10,000, $15,000 depending on what things you choose. So how does that work?
Yes, funerals definitely are expensive. So with one of the insurance companies that I'm licensed with, so when a client buys a whole life policy, it also includes a grieving family advocate service. And with each policy, a client will receive a final wishes booklet. So in that booklet, you can write out all the detailed instructions of what you want your funeral to be like, if you want a traditional burial or cremation. And when it's time to make the final arrangements, the advocate group, they are the ones that will contact the different funeral homes and do price shopping, comparison shopping, as far as finding the type of funeral or cremation service that you had in mind. And that will definitely help your family save the money, save some money off of the funeral expenses, and it'll also allow your family time to grieve instead of working on making the funeral arrangements. And with the advocate group, because it's an unbiased party, like the funeral homes definitely aren't going to be able to shop on their emotions, because that is something else that drives up the cost of funeral. Because we tend to make it like it's our emotions that tend to
Right.
make our decisions. Yes.
Exactly. And the thing is the loss is so raw. You want to do the best by that person instead of really being more rational and saying they wouldn't want me to spend all of that money. They're not here anymore.
So it's the advocate group that definitely helps family members save that. And as far as like buying a casket, a lot of people aren't aware that you don't have to buy your casket from a funeral home. You can buy it at a warehouse, you can buy it at Costco. Just because the funeral home shows you a $20,000, $30,000 casket, you do have the option to go out and get your own. So with the advocacy group, they usually get all the caskets and the urns for cremation from a warehouse. And at present, they actually have the caskets locked in for a lifetime at $2,000 and an urn for cremation at $99.
Wow. So is this now, do you buy this kind of insurance in groups of thousands, or is it a policy that just, is it one price And you said that, and then they do all of the stuff. I've never, I don't know anything about how this is priced, or how do you know what to get when you're talking about
So with the
that?
advocacy group, it's an additional $4 per month on whatever coverage amount that you get. And it also, the advocacy program, it also covers up to four family members. So it is a good price because for that $4 a month, even if your additional families don't get a whole life policy, they do still qualify for that program, the advocacy, the grieving family support service to help cut down the cost of your funeral.
Oh, I might have to look into that with mine. I don't even have any idea if that's on mine or not. But how do you, if I was going to come to you and say I want to purchase this kind of insurance, is it part of my whole life, or do I get a separate policy, and do I buy it for how much I want to have them spend on my funeral? Like, do I get a $10,000 funeral policy, or 20,000, or how does that work?
It's part of the whole life policy that you buy, so it's not available separate. So
Oh, okay.
usually, yeah, yeah, because it's only an additional $4. So if you were to buy a whole life policy from me for $50 a month, so including the advocacy group, it would be $54 a month.
Oh, so I have to go look on mine and see, can you add it later on? I mean, is it too late if you've already got a policy in place?
No, you can add it on. Yeah, you can add it on.
Not that I'm planning to go anywhere, but there again, I want to save my children. And then that's why we buy the insurances and everything, is to save our family that time, and, um, those concerns at a time that they're compromised. Um, so that's interesting to know. I had no idea. I
Oh, and another benefit with the advocacy group is also because oftentimes, if somebody has a life insurance policy, when a family member dies and then it's time to make the payments, oftentimes it's the funeral home that will get the check insurance from the insurance company.
mhm.
So, like, suppose you, with your whole life policy, you currently don't have this membership. So, if you were to die and it's time to make your arrangements, the insurance company will send the check to the funeral home, but that's like writing a blank check. So that is another factor that drives up the cost of a funeral, because if a funeral home sees, oh, the benefit on this amount is $100,000, so let's see how expensive we can make this
The
funeral.
Well, I thought when you have a beneficiary, it goes, that whole amount of whatever your insurance is goes to the beneficiary. So you're saying that it really goes, whatever's left over from the funeral goes to the beneficiary.
In most cases, oh, can you still hear me?
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
you're
okay, because for a minute my screen froze. So in most cases, because before the funeral home will make the arrangements for the burial, they will want to see that you can actually pay for the funeral.
mhm.
Whereas with the advocacy group, they are the ones that will contact the life insurance company to get the death benefit paid out, and they will never disclose the amount to the funeral home as far as like how much coverage you actually have.
Well, that seems like it's a whole lot smarter, just all on its own. You give people ideas that, oh, this person's got $100,000. All of a sudden they done added 10-20% to everything else that they're offering.
Yeah, I mean, this may not be a fit for everyone, but it definitely is a benefit to have. Like me personally, when I die, like I've already written out my final wishes. I want the bare bones, the minimum. I just want to be cremated because insurance money, it's for the living, it's not for
It
the
is.
dead.
Right. I'm with you. I've told them, "Oh, go have a party." You can go spread my ashes, put me on the beach, put me in the ocean, put me somewhere else. Do not bury me. I do not, I am not in that cemetery. Do not come visit me.
And besides, like there have been documentaries about funeral homes like digging up graves to because eventually they run out of space.
Right. Well, I've never heard that. I do, the same person who was telling me that, because he had two deaths within a couple months of each other. Um, he um, he told me that with the first person who died in his family, they called the funeral home and had the funeral home pick up because the person died at home. A lot of your seniors, a lot of people, they are in their home when they pass away. And the funeral home charges to come pick it up.
Yes, they
And you
do.
don't get to shop or do anything. If you call the closest funeral home or whatever the going rate is, you've already stuck with whatever they're going to do. What he said is when the second person died, the police were there, of course, to pronounce the person dead. But
Okay.
if you let your local police move the body, they don't charge you anything.
Wow.
He said, let the police remove the body and then tell them where to send it. So that way, in that moment of that they've passed and you've gotten that news, you can tell the police to remove the body. And then it gives you at least a few hours or something to kind of get yourself together or find the papers that the person has it all set up with or has, written down
Hopefully I'm
maybe
still
what they.
connected. My screen keeps freezing.
Well, I can still hear you though, and that's okay because we can still see your beautiful face. And as long as we can hear you, then it's all good. It will catch up. We're gonna have faith, That's
Oh, I'm back.
yes, it's all good. Could you hear me during that time?
No, my screen was frozen.
Well,
No,
since my internet is unstable, so who knows? But we'll keep working at this as best we can. Technology. You love it when it works really, really well, and when it doesn't, you just have to say, okay.
Okay.
But what I was saying is that if you let and this is at least in my city. Now, I don't know how it is in other cities. Now, please understand that this was in my city. And so I've done told all of the family, and I now know from my mother, because her being 92, when she's not getting up, when I'm home in the mornings and she gets up late, I go look in her room and see if her blanket is going up and down for her breathing. Because
Oh,
I know we've already talked about transitioning. She wants to just go to bed one night and not wake up. This is
wow.
this is our best laid plan. And so I'm like, I know I'm going to be the one to find her.
Oh,
When you talk about these things and you at least go over it in your brain, then when it does happen, hopefully it won't be as traumatic.
yes.
So, knowing these things and having discussed these things with her, I'd rather her die in her own bed, transition in her own bed, if whichever word you want to use. It to me, it's we don't our souls are um eternal. Our souls are energy, and so we just transition into a different form, but our
Yes.
bodies are going to go back to the earth. I mean, that's just the way the cycle is. Everybody's going to go there. Everybody happens. Um, and that is, if you don't talk about it with your families ahead of time, it really leaves that area not knowing when it happens what to even think about how they wanted to have you even remember them.
Yep.
Hi, Miss Maria. Glad to see you on here. You want to introduce yourself, and do you have any words or questions for Miss Vedra? I've kind of been
good
taking.
morning. I'm Maria Gertzen, and I'm with Color Street. And I know most of what Vidra's talking about. I didn't know about anything about advocacy because I was once licensed in life and accident and health. But um, my beliefs are quite different than y'all.
Okay, and that's
Uh,
fair.
I believed in when my husband and I were back in the 30s. We believed in um, Tom. Could you pick up that fan back there in the back hall, please? Okay. Cat knocked the fan over. I believed in what they call buying term and invest the difference. And it was a lot cheaper when we had a family of 5 kids, because that's when the time that insurance is really needed. I mean, my husband being a truck driver, I'm not a, I cannot predict what was going to happen, but in case it did happen, I would have been left with a blended family of 5 children, which is quite a burden. But at the time, the money you could pay for buying whole life in lieu of term insurance, and you could have a decreasing term, was starting with a high balance of maybe, let's just use an example of 250,000 or 300,000. It would decrease over the life of the plan. Now, granted, let's just say you would be doing it 50 years from the time of 30. Well, I don't know how that would decrease on down, but your need for the cash is less greater at that time than it would be for your burial. So in the hopes that you would have not had a 9/11 or a pandemic or a major snowstorm, I mean, it seems like the stock market just goes off of that. You would be able to have that money at retirement. You would be able to have that money in savings. But for instance, ours, we did a contractual plan as in a mutual fund, and that's what helped throughout the years save up quite a bit of money. But then when 9/11 happened, and there should have been advocacy groups that stopped the market from doing anything derogatory, but it didn't happen. It just, everything happened so fast on that morning. So it's a risk. Yes, it's a risk you take. So that is my values. And at the current, I don't have life insurance. I don't see a need for life insurance, but my husband and I have been paying for our expenses ahead of time on a monthly basis with the local funeral home. And if we decide to change anything, then it can be all done. And I'm just about done this October. And so we'll be, kids all know where we're going to go. People there, just, I'm writing a book about all the things that I've gone in there and talked about, anywhere between nails and do you take walk-in cases, and what happens if I decide to breathe the last breath while I'm here. Just all jokes. So it's a nice way. It's a nice way of letting them know exactly what you're about. My goodness, they're only a mile from the house, so there's no interest to that. And I've encouraged my sister that also doesn't have life insurance to do the same thing where she's at. But she keeps saying, I can't afford it, can't afford it. You cannot afford not to.
Right.
So I say to the younger people, you cannot afford not to have some.
Like you said, one way or the other, you need to take care of it. See, that is another option, is that you live in a smaller area and you've gone to your funeral home, and when you prepay for your funeral expenses, that is another way to seal how much is charged, because you're picking it, you're setting it all up in advance, and it is all taken care of, hopefully, before you need it.
In today's prices.
Right.
So that to engulf the cost for inflation. Couldn't think of the word I wanted to say.
And see, and that's just another option. It's just where, Miss Vedra, this is what we were talking about, is Miss Vedra's explaining what her business is. So we are having her tell her story and what she does and what she offers, and they're going through the questions. And I had term insurance when my kids were little. We couldn't afford, along with paying for my daughter's health insurance, because when I lost my job, I lost my health insurance. And so we had to Cobra it, and we had to pay. My daughter could not be uninsured because of pre-existing conditions. We had to keep her under the health insurance. And so term insurance was the only thing we could afford, because there again, if something happened to either one of us, we needed the money for the other person to survive and be able to keep her covered in that event. So I totally agree with you. When the kids were young, and when you get older, you don't need quite as much. everybody has to decide what route is best for them. And that's where having a agent like Vedra is, she's going to go through all of those different options with you, right?
Yes, and like earlier you were mentioning about as far as like the cost of a funeral, transporting a body from the home to the funeral home. Another thing that also drives up the cost of a funeral is if somebody dies out of state and they want their remains transported back home. So that is another thing, and that's something else that people don't consider when planning their funeral.
Exactly. So, it's one of those things that, my mom and I have discussed it. She doesn't have any kind of insurance, I don't think, except whatever the banks offer. The bank sends you this thing, give you $1,000, whatever, life insurance with your checking account. But
Yes.
uh, she doesn't have any either. But we've talked about, that she wants to be cremated. When my dad died, we had him cremated. We never even had a funeral service because my dad moved around so much, and his last years, none of us knew who in the world to even invite or where to put it, to tell people that he died. He didn't have any close friends. So there's a lot of people who don't even have services. We did the minimal, it was paid for out of whatever his estate was. But you can shop cremation services too.
Yes, you can.
You need to be very careful and not just say, oh, they're all the same. No, 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 they're not. And if that's, once you do that, make those phone calls, or have like, I'm excited about this advocacy. I'm gotta figure that. I gotta find out about that. Miss Vedra, I'd get you to help me, except I already have a whole life. So, but I'm going to be talking to my agent and finding out about having that added to my monthly thing, because I'd rather have, I'm out in my car. I do a lot of driving, and I go back and forth to see grandbaby who's 2 hours away. And the way the
Yeah.
crazy people drive around here, and please, on your trip up, please be careful with your driving. I can't wait to see you this weekend. Um, just, when you're driving and stuff, anything can happen. One of my dearest friends, that introduced me to my opportunity, she was killed in a car accident not even 30 minutes from her home, coming back from a funeral. She went to a
Oh,
funeral, and she was killed in a tragic car accident on her way home.
oh dear.
So, we none of us know. We all have an expiration date. We just don't know what it is. That's why living in the now, living and enjoying each and every day, even though you're working your business, it take a few minutes and tell somebody you love them. You just never know when that moment is going to be. So I am looking at it every day that I look at my mother. And I tell people when I go out, I said, I never know if that's going to be, because I like to Uber. That's how I supplement my income, is with Uber and Lyft. And I tell people, when I go out in the morning, she's still asleep. When I come home, today could be my last day. You know, health changes in a heartbeat. We're not looking at her getting sick or being bedridden or being any of that. But we don't, and none of us can predict or know for sure what our end years or our end journey is going to be. So you kind of plan for different options, planning for her to be well and just not wake up one day. But I'm also preparing and developing an online business and developing a way that I can make money online and have a way to make a living from my laptop for the rest of my life, once I quit wanting to trade time for money. Because who wants to do that? But I don't want to quit working. I love working. Anybody else love working? Maybe it's just me. I love working. So there's my rant.
Rita, are you going up to see Miss Karen?
Yes, I am running a half marathon on Sunday, so I'm driving up tomorrow.
Yes.
Oh, good. Wish you well.
Well,
So
Thank
excited.
you.
Yes, it's
We'll
been
definitely post lots of pictures on Facebook.
yes. And it says it's only 30% chance of rain. And around here, that can mean no rain at all. It could mean just a overcast day. And it's been known to rain on one side of the city and not on the other. So just I'd rather it be cloudy. That way it won't. Well, then again, we're trying to do pictures and we're going to be trying to have some girl fun. So hopefully it is a little sunny, some of it
Well,
for
I
our
hope so.
Saturday
Yes.
excursions. So any other questions, Miss Maria? Anything else you want to pop in and say?
I'm in a dilemma right now, and maybe either you may know something or someone watching in the replay. I had tickets to go visit family members, and so I changed the itinerary. No problem. I had to pay a little bit more, which is just $45. Now I'm having to change it again, and they want per airlines $90. And I'm like, I didn't buy these tickets to begin with cash. I used points on my credit card that I had accrued over 3 years. I was going to surprise my sister, but she got sick. And then she's got a family circumstance that even if I left next Tuesday, I'd only be able to spend a week there. How do I get around a third party travel and go right to the airlines and deal with it myself? The airlines, the first time I had to change it, was willing to do it. The second time they told me I had to go back to the third party. Anybody have any insight on this?
I don't travel enough
Yeah.
with the airlines to even know where to start.
My whole living room, my love seat and my was all with iron stuff, ready to pack. Finally, I just put everything my was going to give my sister in a box and send it out the other day and said I was really upset.
I can
Getting
imagine.
over it because we've never had our birthdays together. I wanted to surprise her, and the whole family was in on it, and I couldn't tell her that, but it's the way it was. So I said all that to say this. I've got to work with it. Their computer's been down twice at the third party travel. Um, I'm getting closer to leave date. So I may just have to give all this up and not spend another $99.
It's hard to decide whether to invest in changing it or when COVID happened, I had tickets to go out to my company, convention, their yearly thing. And theirs was in May, and COVID, of course, shut everything down the end of March.
Yeah.
And I had bought my airline tickets third party. I'm Travelocity, Expedia. I don't do that now. But in coming back, they didn't have an in-person within the time frame that the company, the airlines, when they started flying again regularly, they gave us till like December 31st. Well, our next open thing was in May. Everything's in May. So I lost both airline
Mm.
tickets. I had two different airlines for the two round trips and I could never convert them. I don't go anywhere, between my children and my everybody, everything's here. I'm not a travel bug right at this moment yet in life. I hope to change that, but
You will.
I am going to change it. I've started writing my list of places I'm going to go. I am listening to a book now that is phenomenal. It's called The Happy Pocket Full of Money. And it is absolutely fabulous. I'll be starting to quote that much over the next few months because I'm just thrilled with all of the
The
ideas
ha-
and the things it has.
the happy what?
It's called The Happy Pocket Full of Money. So it's but it's phenomenal. But it's in the vein of how I want to live my life. And so just confirms so much and gives me more nuggets. You know, you can listen to the same kind of stuff over and over again, but each person says it a little different. And this is what is so important when you have your own story. And I get sometimes a little, I won't say overwhelmed, but so many people are out there doing so many phenomenal things. I'm like, well, who would want to listen to me? And then every book that I read, I think I find a nugget in there from the way they said it based on their experiences. And I'm going, that's why I need to do what I need to do and to share what I need to share, because my story is different. And even though I'm talking about the same kinds of things as these other books and these other mentors and these other people, I've lived a different life and I have different things that I can bring to the relationship that is different than the other ones. But our little ego, that little person that sits up there and says, oh, nobody wants to hear that. Yeah, no, don't do that, because, you know, they have already heard that. I have to tell it to shut up.
I tell it, get out of there.
That's it.
You ain't got no business. Get out of there.
That's it.
Like
So,
I'm talking, get out of there.
and it never, you know, the thing about all of these, the books and the mentors and the stuff is that none of this ever goes away. You know, you don't ever get rid of it like totally and like, oh, I don't ever have to worry about that. I got rid of it and it's done. Because in your weakest moment, it jumps right back up there and wants to grab you. And you have to talk it back down. It's just the span of time between the episodes gets wider and wider and wider. So whereas sometimes when somebody's not used to controlling or talking to that other voice, they happen every day. And then for me, it happens like once a week. And hopefully soon it'll go to once a month. And hopefully it'll go to once a quarter. And hopefully it'll go to once a year. And maybe once every decade. That is the progression. Nothing ever gets where it goes away. It's just where it gets where it doesn't happen quite as often. All right, guys, anybody else got anything to say? If not, then we'll wrap it up.
Well, I guess my last, the only thing I have to say is if you're shopping around for insurance, today is the best time to start because you'll be the youngest you'll ever be and the healthiest. Because the younger and healthier you are, the more affordable life insurance is.
Yes. Now, if you're in our group, just DM Miss Vedra if you have any questions. If you, I'm going to put her contact information for those that may see this on YouTube. And I'm going to... Hi, my name is Karen Thomas. But guess what? That is not important. What's important is your success online. I can help you start a successful, thriving business online, no matter how many times you have failed. If you have a desire to win, you can. All you need is Wi-Fi, a laptop or desktop, and be able to follow simple directions. Reach out to me and I can show you exactly how.